Hey, this is Mark. This video will help you get the information that you missed because you were absent from the September 15th New Hire Orientation. So it may seem strange to have a how to use this video slide, but in the email that you received with this video link, there were also several attachments that you will need to reference over the course of the video. Feel free to pause as often as needed. I encourage you to have the video in one browser window and have the attachments accessible from the email in another. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Stephen or myself. We're more than happy to clarify things or offer additional resources if needed. So the key content, we'll start off with some save the dates information, a little bit of information about our professional development systems, some nuts and bolts around certification and clock hours, and then close to helping you see some of the resources related to setting student growth goals. So these are the documents that were attached in the email. We'll be looking at them in this order, but feel free to pause the video if you need to click back and forth to take a look at that content. The first thing we want to share with you are some dates that you can get into your calendars because it'll be important for you to continue knowing how to access us. Back in August, we talked about how we intend to offer differentiated support. And some of that differentiation includes who attends what meetings when. And the color-coded sheet should help with that. The Save the Date sheet or attachment that you should have part of your email. If you notice anything that's in green font is for first year of your career certificated staff, and then anything that's in blue is for everybody that's new to the Camas School District. We're differentiating because, as we can all remember, that first year, for those of us that have been around a while, that first year there's a unique set of needs that is different from what you might need when you're just moving from one district to another. So do notice the 3 dates, one of them's already passed now, the 15th, that all newly hired certificated staff come together, and then the monthly dates that the first year of career certificated staff come together. The topics there listed on the right are very malleable and they will be based on the needs that the staff expresses. So that's what our intended scope and sequence is, but as needs arise, we're going to adapt. Related to that is support for your professional learning. So all those dates, if you attend, you will be paid out of the budget that we have to support curriculum instruction. There's a whole separate budget for your professional learning, and often we refer to that as PD at CSD. So one of the attachments that you received is probably labeled 400 versus 900. Looks like this, and it goes over the CEA professional development support systems. So take a moment, pause the video, look over the heavy text side of that particular document, and then once you've done that, go ahead and push play again. So hopefully you followed instructions, and after reading, you got to know a little bit more about what the $900 allocation and $400 allocation are all about. To make sure that you get the most important information, that $900 is prorated based on your FTE, and it's an offset compensation model that's added to your December paycheck. So it's intended to offset the expenses that you may have related to your professional development. There is no need to get pre-approval, no need to keep receipts, no need to submit for reimbursement. You just receive that allocation. And it's an offset, meaning if you're not going to be spending it this year, but you know that you have a major expense coming up to renew your certificate or pursue a degree, you can just manage that $900 on your own. The 400 professional fund is a little bit different. It pays you for your time, not for stuff. And so if you have a registration fee or a tuition that needs to be paid, the $400 isn't used for that. The $400 pays you for your time as a learner. So it pays you for the time that you attend Camas School District, ESD, OSPI, or any other organization's learning. So if you have questions about that, I'll show you the website in just a moment. This model is new in the last couple of years, so there are some existing Camas School District staff members that may be a little fuzzy on how to access this stuff. So if you have any questions or if your colleagues have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact TOSA. So at this short URL, this tiny.cc/CamasProDev, you'll have access to the professional development catalog of the courses that we offer within the district at the local ESD, as well as any others that we hear about from other professional organizations that we then post. So this system that we have is premised on the idea that we as educators have expertise that is worth sharing with our peers. So most of what gets posted here on PD at CSD are workshops or learning experiences that are led by your fellow Camas educators. These all occur outside of our contracted day, because otherwise, if you were being paid for that time, you'd be actually double dipping into public funds, and that's a big legal no-no. But all of these courses have been vetted in one way or another, and in most cases, like I said, are led by your fellow teachers or other educators. You'll see across the heading there, you'll see links for home, facilitators, and so on. The two that are related to coaching, EdTech coaching and instructional coaching, if you click into those, you'll be able to see some options for getting one-on-one support from Atosa if there's something specific you want to learn about. The tab over there that says requests is actually a request if you are submitting an idea for a workshop that you want to facilitate. If you have some experience working with adult learners, you could submit for that. And then that second row where it says ESD 112 courses, that's a link that takes you to the catalog for our local education service district and any of the courses that you might want to access there. As other professional organizations might have workshops or conferences nearby, those will also show up here on this list as long as the teaching and learning team here knows about them. So if you are a foreign language teacher or you are a counselor and you know that your national organization is having a conference soon, let us know and we'll get it posted here so the other counselors or other foreign language teachers will also know that that's an option to get paid for. Related to the time you invest as a learner is this whole idea of clock hours. The clock hour procedures can be kind of confusing, and clock hours function for a variety of different purposes. So I want to take a few slides to clarify some of that because there have been some questions. The first big question, do you even need clock hours? Well, depending on your certificate, more on that later, you may or may not need to be keeping track of clock hours. But even if you don't need to keep track of clock hours for maintaining your teaching license, they contribute to your placement on the salary schedule. So it's a good practice whenever clock hours are offered, and if they're offered here in Camas, they'll be free. Always sign up for them and always do that paperwork, because if nothing else, it can help move you on the salary schedule. When you do attend a workshop or a conference that offers clock hours, make sure you sign in, because if you don't sign in, they can't verify your attendance, and then take the clock hour form, registration form with you. We encourage you to make a copy for yourself or track your own clock hours by keeping a record of the date, course number, and number of hours. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is if you do need clock hours related to your certificate, having all that information at your fingertips will be very helpful when you register with OSPI. If you don't need it for your certification, having that information will be helpful to kind of double check the records that HR has to ensure that you're at the correct placement in the salary schedule. You can choose your next step then. You can send the clock hour form directly to our HR department, at which point they will keep track of your clock hours and update your salary placement each year. They prefer the drizzle approach versus the downpour approach. So if you can just gradually turn in those clock hour forms as you complete them, that actually helps them manage that workload as opposed to receiving a downpour of clock hour forms from all 420 certificated staff members once a year at the beginning of the school year. So they appreciate it if you can send those along as you complete them. The other option that you have is to send your clock hours to the ESD, who will maintain them and then send a transcript each October to our HR. There's more info about that at the link there, which is also in the summary underneath the YouTube video. However, still with HR, they appreciate having the paperwork drizzled into them, because even if they receive the transcript, they still have to hand enter each and every one of those clock hour courses. And speaking of clock hours, also attached to this email is the clock hour form from August. In the mass confusion of the sweaty bus ride back from downtown, not everybody got the paperwork that they need. And there's up to 12 clock hours available from the 2-day orientation. So you can print that out, fill it in, sign it, and return it to HR. You can see the last names are how we determine which HR specialist you want to send that documentation to. So the collection of clock hours is related potentially, to your maintenance of your teaching certificate. This whole system here in the state of Washington is incredibly and unnecessarily confusing. What happens is every few years the rules change, people are grandfathered in or not, and it's very confusing as to which track you might be on. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Stephen or me. In general, though, the core information that's going to be relevant to most of you is represented in this flyer, which is also attached to the email that you received. So you can see over there in the left-hand column, in your first couple of years, you have what's called an initial certificate, and that is whether you are new to the profession or new to the state of Washington. If you take a look at that certificate, it actually won't even have a date stamp on it, so it has no expiration date, but that doesn't mean you've got the golden ticket. Once the state knows that you have been gainfully employed for 2 full years on a contract, you then receive a date stamp, and you'll have what's called a residency certificate. At that point, in years 3 through 5, you have a 3-year window where you either need to decide to pursue your ProTeach portfolio or your national boards. ProTeach is a 1-year process, and here in Camas, Stephen runs a cohort through the Seattle Pacific University, and we also have a national boards cohort that you should have seen some emails about earlier as well. If for some reason your residency certificate lapses during this time, hopefully you have extended your certificate, because if you are actively engaged in either ProTeach or national boards and your deadline for renewal or your expiration date is coming up soon, you can usually extend that once. After year 6 and beyond, you have what's called a professional certificate that you renew every 5 years. There are several different iterations of that out there, but for most people relatively early in their careers, it has to do with completion of professional growth plans, and that's something that we will also be providing support for here in Camas. If you have any questions about certification or ProTeach, please do not hesitate to contact Stephen in particular, because he's the one that's most up to date on all of this information. It also is the season for us to think about student growth goals in our district. We have a broad philosophy about this at the central office that I want to share with you, and then connect you with some resources that can help you. I've been working very closely with the school district and even statewide stakeholders ever since our new teacher evaluation system was first kind of thought up. And after also working with other school systems and state systems elsewhere in the United States, I can say that one of the things that we are doing right here in Washington is our teacher evaluation model. The challenge is how we as practitioners choose to engage with it. And some people will say, oh, it's just jumping through hoops. I'm a big believer that hoopification is a choice. If we feel like our teacher evaluation system is jumping through hoops and a waste of our time, I feel like that's something that we have control over. So the way that we think about this from the teacher leadership standpoint is that here in Camas, we have not established one singular way that everyone must do student growth goals. We understand that there are a variety of different contexts, even within the same hallway of the same school. So it's important that our student growth goal setting is relevant to our students and our context. It's important also that we recognize that this is an opportunity for collaboration. So ask for assistance if you need it, either from Stephen or me, from other TOSAs, from other teachers, from your principal, because we want to collaborate to make sure that this is meaningful. Which goes into that number 3. This should be about meaningful student growth that results from intentional instruction. It's not just about gathering data to prove yourself. It's really about looking at data that helps you make instructional choices. Too often we think of evaluation solely from the kind of finish line perspective, that we've done this and we have proved ourselves. But in reality, mindful examination of student growth is really about what we do to look at students, information from students, to inform our practice as professionals. And last, over the last several years, we've developed a library of resources to support teachers and other classroom staff as they engage with this student growth journey. More on that in just a second. So those resources, a great place to start is at the staff corner. If you scroll down the right side, you'll see a student growth goals link. You will need to be logged in with your Camas Google login because it includes some examples of student work and video from the classroom. So to protect student identities, we've made sure to put that within the login section. You're going to find example goals, you're going to see teacher videos, you're going to see quite a few things that can help you frame your thinking around what student growth might look like. Of course, if you need support, you can email me or Steven. And down in the notes below this YouTube video, you'll see a link to a Do What How, which is kind of a set of criteria that you can use to evaluate whether or not your goal is an effective goal. And it's not a prescription as to how you have to do it, but it's a way of thinking about whether or not the goals that you have crafted are really meaningful for you and for student learning. Last but not least, getting paid for this. So you've now sat here for about 15 minutes and 35 seconds, and hopefully you paused the video and taken a look at the attachments and read through the stuff about your PD system and so on. But it's important as a professional that we get compensated for the time we invest into our profession. So attached to the email was a time card. So if you were not able to attend the new hire orientation on September 15th, but you did watch this video, check out the attachments and process your own learning, you can submit to me for a half hour of pay from our new teacher programming budget. And so attached to the email was an extra work time card. And you'll probably see these more often as you engage with different kinds of activities. This is what that extra work time card looks like. Since it is an Excel file, you can type your last name and first name and location in. Check out what day it is today, and in that date on the top row, you can enter 0.5 for half an hour of time invested, and it should auto-populate over there. Or you can print this out and handwrite it in. In the part that's not visible on the screen, down at the bottom, there's a place for your signature and date, and also your supervisor's signature and date. You do not have to have your principal sign because this program is a district-wide program, not a building program. So typically your supervisor would sign if the funds were coming out of your building budget. But in this case, it's a district-wide budget. You'll see over in the chart under the description where it says make up new hire orientation from absence on September 15th, extra work assignment, and then a little note to you, please return to me at Zach as soon as possible. You can use the intra-district mail, those cool brown envelopes. If you're not sure how to access those, just check in with your main office secretary. So this brief video condenses about an hour and a half of interaction, content, Q&A, and reflection into about 18 minutes. Hopefully when you take a look at those save the date days, you'll be able to attend the future ones, because we know as educators that getting information from a video and some handouts might be effective, but there's really no substitute for face-to-face interaction, the ability to pose questions, to clarify, and to listen to the inquiries of others in order to deepen our own learning. So check those dates, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future. As always, if you ever had any questions, do not hesitate to contact Stephen or me or any of your colleagues for support. And check out the links underneath this YouTube video so that you can access information about student growth goals and other resources that may be relevant this time of year. Once again, we hope that you're finding a good home here in Camas with your new colleagues. We are very glad to have you joining us. And if there's anything that any of us can do to support you, please do not ever hesitate to ask.